Direct from Montreal, Canada, this is Rock Talk with Mitch Lafon. Rock Talk with Mitch Lafon.
Welcome to this episode of Rock Talk with Mitch Lafon. Joining me on the phone from the band Lamb of God, it is guitarist Mark Morton. His new EP, Aether, is available now, and it's got a cover of the Black Crowes' She Talks to Angels. That is so incredibly good. It redefines what a good cover is, and it features Lizzie Hale from the band Hailstorm. Lamb of God, of course, will be very, very busy in 2020, according to Mark. New album, major tour, so do listen for that and keep your eyes peeled because the band coming to town is always a high-energy show. And speaking of high energy, there are two albums that came out in 2019 that I've spent the last couple of weeks listening to extensively that maybe weren't on your radar, and if they weren't, they definitely should be. First of all, it is Another State of Grace by the Black Star Riders. The band, of course, went through some lineup changes, but this new album, the new lineup, man, there are some great tracks on that. So if you haven't checked out Another State of Grace by the Black Star Riders, which features, of course, Scott Gorham of Thin Lizzy, do so. Very much recommended. And Damon Johnson, who was in the band and then left the band, put out a solo album. So Damon Johnson has an album called Memoirs of an Uprising. Came out, I guess, summer of 2020. And that is absolutely a great, fun rock record. So, you have Damon that left the Black Star Riders. They both put out albums. And guess what? Both winners. And, of course, speaking of winners, my pick for a best album of 2019. And when I say best album of 2019, I'm talking just for me. What piqued my ears and piqued my interest, because I'm not going to get into a debate of, no. It's what made me happy. It was the Tigers of Pantang's Ritual. So check out those three albums and, of course, Mark Morton's Aether. And without further ado, let's get right to it. Here is the one, the only, from Lamb of God, Mark Morton. We are speaking with Lamb of God guitarist Mark Morton. The new album is Aether, an EP of acoustic tracks. As we say in Montreal, bonjour, Mark. Comment allez-vous? How are you?
Doing well, Mitch. Thanks for your time. Thanks for having me.
Yes. So we will at some point discuss how much I love Aether, but talk to me about putting together an acoustic album. Your first album, Anesthetic, was very much pedal to the metal. And if you're a Lamb of God fan, you can go, yeah, I sort of see what he's doing there. But this one's a bit of a departure. Talk to me about sort of, I don't want to say softening him up because that sounds wrong, but, taking it to the acoustic side.
Yeah, so, I mean, Anesthetic, as you described, was definitely still on the heavy side of things. It was, there was some, more rock-oriented stuff than I would do in Lamb of God, but there was still some definitely metal influence on some of the tunes. But there were a couple spots, like in the song Axis with Mark Lanigan and song Reveal with Naima Maddox, where it did get kind of mellow and more clean tones and a little more of a chill vibe. And so I feel like Aether kind of builds off of that, and it was really, I guess the catalyst for it was having gone that direction a little bit on Anesthetic, but also in the process of playing shows in support of Anesthetic, I had the opportunity to do a couple of acoustic showcases, one at the Sonic Temple Festival in Ohio and another at the Download Festival in the UK. And these were, acoustic sets, short sets, just a few songs each, couple different singers coming in and working with me. And it went really well, and I really enjoyed the challenge and kind of the vibe of approaching the songs differently and stripping them down and kind of arranging them for an acoustic guitar. I hadn't really done it. I have played acoustic pretty much ever since I've been playing guitar, but I hadn't really performed in that sense. And I really enjoyed it. And like I said, I like the challenge of kind of reworking the songs. And that's really what was the impetus for what became Aether.
Yeah, so talk to me about the vocalist here. You've got Mark Morales, of course, from Sons of Texas. Now, I'll be honest, as a rock reporter, I probably should know what Sons of Texas or who they are, but I hadn't. And I heard his voice, and this guy sings like a mother, Just fantastic. So I went and listened to the Sons of Texas stuff. Now I'm a fan. How did you sort of hook up with Mark and Lizzie and John and Howard Jones and get them to sing on this? And how do you sort of decide which song goes to which voice? Is it, hey, Mark's in the business, well, I'll just do All I Had to Lose? Or do you sort of write with them in mind? How did that sort of come together?
I mean, it's kind of a little different per song, but in terms of, Mark had been working, Sons of Texas did a couple of albums with my producer, Josh Wilbur. He had done their first couple projects. So he was on Josh's radar. And back when we were doing on Anesthetic, because Mark sings a song on Anesthetic, he sings the song Blur. So when we were kind of assembling the cast of characters for that album, Josh had suggested Mark, and I knew they had worked together, and I listened a little closer and realized how, he's a great, great singer. So we put him on Blur, and then Mark became the singer for my live touring band. And he actually has the unbelievable ability of taking all the songs off of Anesthetic, the women included, and that wide range of voices from Chester Bennington to Mark Lanigan to Alyssa White-Gluz to, all across the board to Miles Kennedy. And he performs all those songs. So he's really an unbelievable talent. And, like I said, he became my live touring singer. And so I knew I would include Mark to some degree. I wouldn't have not included him. In terms of Howard and I have been friends. Really, we've been playing shows together for almost 20 years now. I'm pretty sure we were still Burn the Priest when we first played with Howard and his band Blood Has Been Shed. If we were Lamb of God, it was early and after we had changed the name. So Howard's an old friend, and he was on my list of people I would have liked to work with on Anesthetic. Just really didn't have the right song, the right pairing. And that's really been kind of become part of my process for the solo stuff, is really pairing the right song with the right singer. In some cases, it's writing for someone specifically in mind. In some cases, it's having a piece of music that fits the style of what I feel like someone's going to bring to the table. Miles Kennedy comes to mind, the song Safe Defiance. He wrote his vocal and the lyrics and stuff for that. But the instrumental that I presented him was definitely for him, tailored, with him in mind. So the process, kind of changes. Howard, I knew I wanted to work with Howard, and when I started writing for Aether, knowing it was going to be an acoustic-based project, I started sending him ideas right away. So he was kind of the first person I was writing with. Howard wrote his lyrics and his vocal, but we were kind of going through that process together. I wrote All I Had to Lose. I wrote the lyrics for that, and Mark came in and just sang it beautifully. He really brought it to life with his amazing voice. John Carbone, I had worked with his band Moontooth on their most recent album called Crux. It's been getting a lot of attention, and Rolling Stone named it one of the best 50 albums of 2019, and they've just been getting a lot of love on that album. And I was fortunate enough to be part of the production team for that project, so I had worked with John pretty closely. So I wanted to include him, and he had some great ideas for the song "To Fight." As far as Lizzie, I wanted to do She Talks to Angels. I kind of knew I wanted to do that song because this was an acoustic-based project, and Black Crowes are one of my favorite rock bands, and that's one of their acoustic-based songs. And it's such a great song, and I knew I wanted to do a version of it, but I thought having a woman sing it would kind of give it a different kind of energy and a different angle to change the protagonist from a man to a woman. And I just think she sang the hell out of it. She did such a great job with that. I've kind of been friendly with Lizzie for a few years now. Lamb of God and Hailstorm have played a lot of festivals together, and they've come over and watched us play, and we'll come watch them play. So the camps are friendly, so it wasn't too big a stretch for me to reach out to Lizzie and see if she was interested. And I was excited that she was interested.
And the version is absolutely phenomenal. I mean, I listened to it, and I literally ran to my wife and said, "You have to hear this." And we just loved it. So talk to me a little bit about, now you are, of course, known as the lead guitarist of Lamb of God. Is there a point where, you've done Anesthetic, now you've done the acoustic one. Do you see yourself stepping into sort of Joe Satriani or Steve Vai territory and doing a shred album or some kind of all guitar, just instrumental album? Does that interest you at all?
It really doesn't, and that's no disrespect for the people that do those kind of things. I have become less and less interested in chasing that sort of technical prowess and that, just that unbelievably scientifically, technically amazing approach to guitar that some of the guys you mentioned have. I've never been that kind of player. Maybe at times I have aspired to that. And the more and more I go in my career, the more and more I kind of write songs and work on different projects. I'm far more interested in songwriting. I happen to be a guitar player, so I write songs on guitar primarily. But to me, and I think hopefully as evidenced by the progression of Lamb of God's material and also the solo work that I've been releasing the last year or two, I'm really interested in the song. I'm much more, I'm just much more fulfilled by a really good song than I am any kind of shreddy solo or technical display. And again, that's no disrespect to people that do that kind of thing. The world needs all of that too. I'm just not that guy, man.
Well, listen, I agree with you. The bumblebee attack stuff drives me crazy. And again, like you said, no disrespect. Talk to me then about what, we know about songwriting, but what makes a good guitar solo or a good guitar part for you? The last conversation I had with Leslie West, he said to me, Mitch, it's got to be singable. If it's not singable, it's not good. Do you sort of see that in the same way that a guitar solo has to be singable?
I mean, I've heard that before, and I don't disagree. I don't know that it has to be. I think for me, my favorite guitar solos are usually ones that just kind of speak with some kind of emotion. They incite or invoke some sort of emotional response. I'm thinking about, one of my favorite solos is Sometimes Salvation, Mark Ford's solo on the Black Crow song, Sometimes Salvation. And it's really it sounds like it's just about to fall apart at any minute, but it's really just drenched in this kind of desperate sort of hanging on for dear life kind of feel. That's what I get out of it. And I just think, whatever mistake or weird gliss of the notes or imperfection might be in that solo, it's all part of the beauty of it because it makes you feel a certain way. Jimmy Page was the master of that. He just never the most technically accomplished lead player by any stretch, but you could really feel the sadness and just the kind of, at different points, different emotions, different kind of swagger in his solos. And to me, it's really about that kind of identity. I think if I aspire to anything at all as a lead guitar player, it's that I would have an identity whereby someone can hear a solo of mine and they can tell it's me. And not just maybe because I'm recycling the same 6 or 8 licks, but because it's got a certain swagger to it, a certain voice on the instrument. And, I don't know if I've achieved that, but it's certainly something that I'm still kind of reaching for sure.
You know what? Let me take you up on that. You said that you're sort of recycling the same 6 or 7 notes. Is that a problem of the metal genre that sometimes it's very limiting in what you can do? I mean, I know as a fan, when you listen and Kiss or somebody like that or a Metallica, they step out and they do something a little different, whether it's Lulu or fans just go, oh my God, what are you doing? That's horrible. Don't do that. Is that a sense that you've gotten being in Lamb of God, that the fans expect just Lamb of God to be one thing, and therefore maybe as an artist it becomes frustrating and limiting that you just sort of have to stay within those walls? Or do I just have it completely wrong?
Well, no, not for us. I mean, that may be true for some bands. Honestly, and I've said this before, and I always worry that it's going to, well, not worry, but, it occurs to me that it might come off the wrong way. Lamb of God has never, from the very beginning when no one had ever heard of us to now, when we are, as I guess, as well known as we've ever been, we have never once at all considered fan response in any sort of creative decision ever. Like, we've never written a song for anybody else except the 5 people in the room. Not for management, not for label, not for fans, not for media, not for anybody. It's when we like it, it's done. And, the rest is up to everybody else. So in that sense, it's really never influenced our process. It's also that I guess approach has, worked for us pretty well. So we've not found much reason to consider anything else, because it's been working for us as individuals, as a group, as artists, and we've had a fair amount of success as well. So for us, no, I don't think so. And as far as metal as a genre being limited, I don't know that it is. I mean, it's as limited as you let it be. The fact of the matter is, in Western music, there's only 12 notes, whether you're playing jazz or metal or country or folk or rock or whatever, it's what you do with them. And it's what, your combination of influences, and your combination of reference points, the way you assemble those and the way your taste of music you reassemble and resynthesize to make your own style. That's what sets you apart,
By the way, I found that answer interesting. So what you're saying then, at no point does Larry Mazer or the record company come to you and say, boy, you really need to jump on this new sound. And was that something that then caused problems with the record label or caused problems with management, where they said, fuck, this band just doesn't want to work with us. What are we going to do with them? Or has it, this independent sort of thinking, just been the trademark and everybody just goes, let them do what they're doing. They know what they're doing?
I love that you bring up Larry. Larry hasn't been our manager
for years.
About, 7 or 8 years. But
I love
nice
Larry.
To hear. Yeah, I love Larry too. I still talk to him on occasion. Him and I became very close during the 10 years that he was managing the band. So shout out to Larry Mazer.
Plus, he managed Kiss on their Revenge tour.
He did. Yeah, he managed a lot of big bands. He's really the old school, really the what you picture is like the old school rock and metal manager is Larry. Like he's that cat. I love him. So no, I mean the short answer to your question is just no. I mean, when we signed to Epic Records in 2003. That was one of our concerns in moving from independent labels to a major, that they were going to try and mold us or cordon us off into one direction or help, kind of shape us into something that they were hoping we would be. And our A&R person at the time kind of assured us and reassured us that they were signing us because they liked what we did and they trusted our artistry. And I've got to say that they have kept that word all along. It's been almost going on 17 years now that we've been on Epic Records, I guess. And they have never asked us to change a song, to clean up a chorus, to take put a certain guest on here, to take the double kicks out of that song. None of it, ever. And I'm glad, because it would be a real awkward situation if they would. We're again, we have never made a single creative decision with anyone else in mind except the 5 of us that are in the room writing the song.
Oh, that's the greatest. That's the greatest. Great freedom. So Aether, of course, is out now. You have done some touring. We'll do some more. Where do you go in 2020? We know that Lamb of God has been teasing some 2020 stuff on their socials. No context given yet, but where do we see you going in the rest of the year?
There's going to be a new album in 2020, and there's going to be extensive touring around it.
Well, but I was also asking for you personally. So you're going to tour, of course, with Lamb of God with a new album and stuff. But where are you going in terms of, do you get back and do another solo album, or what's sort of your plans moving forward?
Yeah, so I mean, I just finished a week-long tour of the UK. It was an acoustic tour, a solo acoustic tour. So I had Mark Morton with me, and a wonderful guitarist named Joe Harvett was playing along with us as well. So we were a 3-piece doing acoustic shows in England, and that was a blast. Great shows, great vibe, great audience. Really a cool way to kind of launch Aether. In terms of what I will do, I'll be touring a lot with Lamb of God, as I said. There's the whole campaign around the new Lamb of God album, which obviously I'm going to be involved in all of that. As a solo artist, I'm really just kind of hoping to at some point squeeze in some more shows on the solo side and support Aether and continue supporting Anesthetic every chance I can get. I don't think there'll be any new material for me as a solo artist. I mean, we just dropped Aether last week, so hopefully that'll tide everybody over until I can get back into the studio with some solo stuff. But yeah, it's going to be a busy 2020 for sure.
It is, and I'll just say, Back from the Dead featuring Josh Todd on Anesthetic is my absolute favorite. In terms of tiding people over, though, when you do get back to it, do you want to sort of maintain an independent career and the Lamb of God career, or was this sort of just filling in the spots until Lamb of God got, were you just sort of at home, sort of trigger happy going, I got to put some stuff out? Or do you really want to say, no, I'm going to have the Mark time and I'm going to have some Lamb time and I'm going to make this work?
Yeah, no, I think Lamb of God is my priority 100%. And when Lamb needs me, I'm there and I'm 100% focused and engaged in Lamb of God. That's my band. I helped start that band. It's my main priority musically, creatively. That said, when I have the chance, when I have time, I work on other stuff. There are things that I do on the solo side that just wouldn't fit in the context of Lamb of God. And as an artist, as a songwriter, as a creative person, as a player, I still want to explore those things. I still want to keep myself interested. I still want to feel like I can engage those ideas and develop those ideas. And doing the solo work gives me the opportunity to do all of that. So when there's time, I will continue to work on it. It's not an either or thing. They just kind of happen simultaneously in and of themselves. The guys in Lamb are all super supportive of the stuff I've been doing. Everybody's got their own little creative outlets outside of the band, and I think it keeps us all in a really healthy, positive place when we come back and reconvene as Lamb of God to work on material for that.
It's amazing, and I'll just say this. I first saw you open up for Anthrax at a place in Montreal called the Spectrum, which has long been taken down and destroyed. It's amazing to see the career you had, because I remember the publicist said, you've got to come early, you've got to see this Lamb of God band, they are going to be the next big thing. And here we are all these years later, it must be 18 years, 19 years, and it's amazing to see the career you've had. But I do want to ask you about the last album, the covers album, Legion XX. Talk to me a little bit about that, if I can, just real quick. Why did you go back to the original Burn the Priest name? Why could you not stamp that Lamb of God?
Well, we certainly could have. We have long talked about, there's always been this kind of, I guess, it's not myth because it's true, but there's always been the story of the band before the band. We were Burn the Priest, and we did release an album, and we did play festival shows, and we did tour on the East Coast. People did see the band. They had bought the T-shirts. There was a kind of a band before the band. And for us, it's, even though, we had a member change, Abe, our original second guitar player, left. Willie Adler came in. Willie was in Burn the Priest as well. He came in before we changed the name. So it was always really, for us, the same group of guys, the same project, the same band. We just changed the name. So we had talked for years about doing a cover album as Burn the Priest, or writing a song and releasing it as Burn the Priest and that kind of thing, just to sort of keep that kind of legacy alive, keep that part of the story, So what really happened was we talked about the cover thing, and it just never seemed like the right time to do it. And we had a break it was just kind of meant to be. We had a break in the calendar where we had time to actually do it. And it was right there at the 20th anniversary of the Burn the Priest album that we put out independently. So it was kind of a celebration of 20 years of Burn the Priest, and an idea that we had for quite some time. And it just, so the universe lined up where we had the time and ability to do it right there at the 20th anniversary of the first, the Burn the Priest album. So we jumped on that opportunity.
Well, and it turned out great. And of course, Aether is available now. The album sounds great. And Mark, just an absolute pleasure to talk to you today. And I will just finish on this. We touched upon it briefly, but you did say there was a new Lamb of God in 2020. It's been 5 years since an album of original material. Any nerves going into it? Is it exciting to get back sort of under the banner and play some new stuff? How do you approach it? Do you say, okay, we have a sound and we got to get that sound? Or do you try something new? Like, how do you sort of, like, 5 years later of new material go, all right, what do we do?
Oh, but then no, it's so natural. It's so natural. I mean, if anything, that amount of time is more than we usually go between albums, which just means it's just more time to kind of collect resources for songs. And, but I call them resources, resource material, ideas for songs, riffs, ideas that have been documented in that time off by Willie or by myself. We both come in with stacks of song ideas and start sifting through them. It's really a lot of fun. In terms of the relationship between the band members, and the energy, it's really honestly never been better. So it's just a great time to be in Lamb of God. Everyone's really positive and in healthy places individually. The communication is strong, and we still just feel like we have more to do. And again, going back to what we were talking about earlier, our process is to write songs that the 5 people in the room think are cool. So there's not really a nerve-wracking process, because we do that. Once we've done that, then we're done. You know what I mean? So hopefully the listeners and the fans out there agree that these songs are, they think they're as cool as we think they are. But if they don't, that's cool. We still did what we always do, which is write the songs that we want to hear. Yeah. And I think this time we got a really, really, really good batch of tunes that we're thrilled for everyone to hear.
Oh, I can't wait. And I will remind folks, Mark Morton, Aether is out now. And if you check out anything, you got to check out the She Talks to Angels featuring Lizzie Hale. It is primo. It is like the best version I've ever heard. So, Mark, on that, merci beaucoup, as we say. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, Mitch. Thanks for your time, man.
Yeah, cheers.
This has been Rock Talk with Mitch Lafon. For more exclusive content and interviews, subscribe on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, on YouTube, and many more. Follow Mitch on all the socials, especially Twitter, @Mitch Lafon, and on Instagram, @Mitch_Lafon. Get your Mitch merch now at loudtracks.com/Mitch.